Welcome back to Larry Beatrice YouTube channel. Today's class will be learning how to make this beautiful sleeve. It's a puff sleeve with pencil sleeve. It's a combination of puff and pencil sleeve. You can also call this a bishop sleeve. I'll be cutting this using the freehand method. It's a very simple tutorial and it is beginner friendly. If this is what you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to make this sleeve, it's actually a combination of a bishop sleeve. So there's going to be gathers around here, and then it has like a curve on the hem of the sleeve. So you're going to be using the doll face fabric for the main sleeve, which is this part, and then for the cuff part I'll be using a lace fabric for it. So to take your measurement, you need to take your measurement from your shoulder point all the way to your wrist. That's your long sleeve measurement. Okay, so now to know the parts that you're going to be including your gathers to, you need to take another measurement from where you want your cuffs to start to your wrist. So that measurement that you have taken here, now you deduct it from your total wrist measure, your total sleeve measurement. I don't know if I'm communicating. So let's say the total measurements from my shoulder point all the way to my wrist is 22 inches. Okay, and then I want my cuff to start from maybe around here. So now I took that measurement from this point now all the way to my wrist, and I have maybe 6 inches there. So now to know the measurement from here to here, all I just need to do is to deduct this 22 inches. I will deduct 6 inches from the 22 inches, and whatever it is that I have, I think 22 minus 6 is going to give me around 16 inches. So which means I have 16 inches from here to here. Okay, so now you can actually measure your 16 inches, or you can just add few inches to it so that your sleeve can at least have some form of puffiness. So I don't like to use exactly my length measurements for any puffy sleeve, so I'm just going to be adding maybe 2 inches to this 16 inches, and that's going to give me 18 inches. So now the total length that I'm working with for this from here to here is going to be 18 inches. Okay, and then from here to here is going to be 6 inches, and then I'm using my lace fabric for that. Another important measurement you need to take is the circumference of this point, okay, and this point, because it has to be fitted for it to be fine. So now you just take your circle round where that curve is going to start, and you take your measurement there, and then also on your wrist area you take your tape round and you take that measurement there. So that measurement is needed to draft this cuff part of your sleeve. So you take that measurement. Now we're going to be working on this upper part first, but firstly, when I'm drafting anything puff or anything puffy, generally I like to work with slash and spread method. But this video is a requested video because I think I have some people that still don't understand how to work with slash and spread method. It's actually very simple, but this person specifically requested that I just draft this bishop sleeve without using slash and spread method. So I'm trying to going to get a method to do that so that I can carry everybody along. But you should really open your mind to slash and spread. It's very simple, and it helps you to add fullness to wherever it is that you want to add fullness to. So because we are not using slash and spread method, I'm going to be drafting this sleeve directly on my fabric, and then I'm using this doll face fabric for this. So I'm going to be putting this fabric on fold by 2. Okay, so remember we are introducing volume to both the upper part, that's the part we are adding our shoulder to, and also the lower part of this sleeve. So I'm not going to be folding it with my actual round armhole measurement. The round armhole measurement that I'm working with is 18 inches. Divided by 2 is going to give me 9 inches. Remember, we are folding this into 2. So now I'm not going to be working with exactly 9 inches because of that volume that I want to add. So depending on how much volume you want to add to this, I can just add 5 inches to the 9 inches, or I can just double it. So if I'm doubling it, it means I'm going to be using 18 inches on fold, so that by the time I open it up, it's going to be 36 inches. But if you feel that is too much for you, you can just add 5 inches to that 9 inches, and 5 plus 9 is going to give me 14 inches. So I can actually fold this by 14 inches. So it's going to give me around 14 inches on fold. Okay, and then the length of this is going to be 16 inches, which is the 16 inches measurement that we got from here. Oh, sorry, 18 inches. Remember, the actual measurement is 16 inches, and then we're adding 2 inches for that puffiness that we want to have there. So that's going to be 18 inches. So now I'm folding this fabric 14 inches by 18 inches. So 18 inches is here. So I'll bring in my chalk and then note those points. Okay, so I've mapped this out now, and I have a measurement of 14 inch 16 18 inches length. So you can see my length is 18 inches. I hope you can see that. Okay, and then the width that I have here on fold is 14 inches. So now the next thing to draft it, this is actually going to be a freehand. So now from this upper part, this is going to be the shoulder part, and this is going to be the hem of this sleeve. So on this underarm area, this is the fold point. Okay, so this part is actually folded. So on this point here now, I'm going to be going measuring my calf's height, which is 4 inches for me in this case. So I've measured 4 inches downwards here. So now using my free hand now, I'm just going to be connecting this now to somewhere here. So you can see how I've connected this. I'm using purely free hand for this. You can just connect it anyhow you want to your cap side, so that you have that underarm area. And here I'm going to be leaving it like this. Remember, we are going to be gathering it also, so I'm not going to be doing any shaping around here. So once I've done this now, I'm going to cut it out. So it's actually very simple to do this. So cutting this out now. Okay, so I have my sleeve. I'm just going to notch the center point there. So now once we open it out, you can see how big this is looking. So we're going to be gathering it here and also gathering it here. Okay, so now I'll leave this aside, then I'll work on the lace part. Remember, I said I'm using the lace for my cuff, and the total length that I'm working with for this cuff. So this lace has a selvage. So of course, this selvage part is going to be where I'll put as my hemline. So now I'm putting this on fold now, and then I'm using a total measurement of 6 inches. But because I'll be sewing it on the upper part, I'm not hemming this. Remember, I have a selvage, so I'm not going to be adding any hemming allowance. But because I'm going to sew this to this fabric here, I'm going to add half an inch allowance to this 6 inches, and that's going to give me 6.5 inches. Also remember that I said you need to measure that point here. Okay, so where your cuff is starting. So for me, I have around 9 inches here. 9 inches divided by 2 is going to give me 4.5 inches, and then I'll add my seam allowance of 1 inch or half an inch, and that's going to give me 5.5 inches. And then I'm going to mark that now. So because I don't want to waste this fabric, I just want to make sure that I have exactly 5.5 inches here. Okay, so this chalk is not so visible, so you just need to follow me as I am doing this. I want to try to have a mark there. So from this mark now to the hem is 6.5 inches. That's my 6 inches measurement plus half inch seam allowance. And then on this point now, I measured the round sleeve of where this cuff is going to start from, and then here I'm going to be measuring my round cuff measurement. That's my round wrist, and then for me it's around 8 inches. But because we don't want this to be too tight, so that your hand can pass through it, because remember, we're not adding elastic to this. So 8 inches is comfortable for me. 8 inches divided by 2 is going to give me 4. Then I'm adding 1 inch seam allowance to that also, and that's going to give me 5 inches. Okay, so now from this point now, I'm going to connect it to this upper part. Okay, and then I'll cut out my cuff. So like I said, you should follow along, because it's a lace fabric, so the chalk is not showing very well on it. Okay, so now the cuff is cut out. So now the next thing now is to gather this. So we're going to be gathering this hem line. We're going to gather it to what we have here as our cuff. Okay, so I'm going to be gathering this to fit in our cuff, and then we're also going to gather this to fit in our actual armhole. So now remember, we went down by our underarm, so you can just leave your underarm part and gather this sleeve head part alone to fit your regular armhole measurement. So now we're going to take it to the sewing machine now and do this gatherings, and then I'll bring it back to show us. So at this point you can decide to use the lining for this. If you want to use the lining for it, you can actually cut this the same way, or you can just cut your actual lining measurement, and then by the time you gather it, remember it's going to be, of course, your normal sleeve measurement. It's not going to be big. So once you gather this like this, you can use your lining to sew it by placing your lining on top of it. So this cuff is going to be in between, so by the time you sew it and then you close it, it must have completely sealed off this part. Or you can just serge it. By the time you sew your sleeve to your cuff, you can serge it and then top stitch to this side. Remember, this is a sleeve, is a net, is a lace fabric, and it is quite transparent, so you don't want your seam allowance to be showing on this lace fabric. So by the time you finish sewing it, and this, for me, this part is actually very neat because this is a lace fabric and it's not going to frill, and this part that I'm using on my doll face also is also a selvage, so I can just get away with this. So what I'm just going to do is just to gather this now to this, and then by the time I finish gathering it, I'm going to top stitch like this, facing, so all the seam allowance now I'm going to top stitch it so that face the this doll face part, which is not transparent, so that I can have something clean on my lace area here, because I don't want my seam allowance to be showing, of course. So now I'll take this to my machine now. I'll gather all this now on my machine, and then I will just take it together now and sew it on the underarm. Gather this also to my armhole measurement, and then I'll bring it back to show us. Okay, so as you can see now, I've gathered everything on this part, and then I went ahead to top stitch it. So the top stitching, I made sure it was facing this part so that it's not going to be showing on my lace. Then I went ahead to sew it on the underarm. So after sewing it now, I'm going to turn this out. So when I turn it out, you'll see what it looks like. So the next thing to do now is to run a gather stitch. So you can see now when I turn it out, this is what I have. So now the next thing is to run the gather stitch, which I have done on this upper part, and then I'm going to gather it to my actual armhole measurement. So you can just pick it now and then start to gather it gently. So you gather it in a way that is not going to cut off, and then you gather it to your exact armhole measurement, and then we'll take it to the mannequin so that you see what we have. So you can see that this is a very simple method, and it's also fast, and you can actually do this directly on your fabric, because we did not use the slash and spread method that I normally use for this. So now I'll just gather this to my armhole measurement now, and then I'll take it to the mannequin so that we will see what this is looking like. Okay, so this is what our sleeve is looking like. You can see the gathers that we have on this upper part and the volume that you have here. So depending on how much voluminous you want this to be, you can multiply your armhole measurement by 2 or 2.5 or whatever it is that you want to work with. And then this is the first part of this. You see how simple and beautiful this turned out. You can use any fabric of your choice for this tutorial, but I used doll face for the main bodies, and then I used a lace fabric for the pencil part of the sleeve. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one.